Hi everyone, it's my absolute pleasure, joy, and a great honor to welcome Elitia Hart from Elitia Hart Pewter Art today. And she's been such an inspiration to me for many, many years, and I've absolutely loved watching her work, done many of her tutorials, and I'd like to introduce you to her wonderful talent today as well. Elitia, welcome. It's an absolute joy to have you. Yeah, like I said, you've been such an inspiration. So would you like to tell us where your journey with pewter and metal embossing started?
Sure. So my journey with metal embossing started in South Africa probably in about 1998, 1999. And at that time, we were living in Hout Bay in South Africa. And I had taken some fabric paint classes from this wonderful artist called Helena Scheiber. And eventually, Helena and Janine Reyners, her very best friend, started. I think the story is that Janine's mom had passed away, and they came across some of the pewter work that she had done in the 50s and 60s, like our parents.
Yeah.
And then they started doing some investigations, and they developed a technique and did a lot of research and so on. So as far as I know, that was kind of, I think, the revival of metal embossing or pewter art in South Africa. And I was just so lucky to know her and to have I'd taken some other classes from her before. And the first time I took a pewter art class, it was like,
magic.
All right, I am home, right?
This is it.
It was just, at that time, they had written a little booklet, and it was just a typed up, bound little booklet. And I tell you, Ninette, I would read it as nighttime reading. And my husband,
gospel.
reading. And I'm like, I'm turning the metal this way. And it was just amazing. I was just so in love with the method. And the love had just never kind of gotten old, right? It just grew from there.
That's
awesome. And then 2 years later, we immigrated to Canada, and I decided that I was going to teach. I had done a bit of, a lot of little things in South Africa. And then when we were here, my husband is an aircraft mechanic, and he had to do all his licensing. And, when you're a new immigrant, you have to do whatever you have to do to make ends meet. So I started teaching some metal embossing in my basement, little shaggy 60s carpet and the wall paneling and very dark and dingy. And the South African community in Calgary they were my first students, and it was just so amazing to share some ideas. And so cool. One of the things I wanted to say to you, the reason I love to teach is because I learn in the process. How can I do some things easier, and how can I make sure that everybody has a good outcome? And I always learn from students. I can't tell you how often I've taken a workshop and I'm like, I'm taking that idea and I'm working with that, so that's kind of where my journey started.
That's amazing.
And just such a love for the craft. And like I said to you in the email, I so appreciate you, the work that you're doing to promote this craft, because it gives a lot of pleasure to us all. And
it does. And I think for me, I think it's a little bit selfish on my part. I just want to learn more. And like you say, by teaching, even the kids' classes that I do, I think when I learned pewter, it was very precise and very purist. So when I painted on it, everyone was having a hissy fit about it, the purist pewter artist. I thought, oh my goodness. But now when I teach the little ones and students with a more free approach than I do, man, I learn so much.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the reason why I started the membership club, is for us all to learn from each other. I think that's the most fun experience, and just seeing how other people interpret the techniques, or how they make it their own. I get such a kick out of it. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. Yeah, you
Yeah,
know, like it's like handwriting, and
true.
even if you give 5 people the exact same design, every
It's not,
design,
yeah,
every outcome will be different because it's like handwriting. Everybody's pressure is different and so on.
yeah.
So that's what I love about this medium, is that it's
Right.
so easy to make it your own.
It is. So are you a pewter girl or do you like copper and aluminium?
No, I
Fan,
am
fan of pewter
pewter all the
all the way.
way. I did a little project yesterday on aluminum, and I was swearing and like cut myself to shreds. And you know, the strange thing is I've never cut
Yeah.
myself on the pewter. For some reason, the edges are not that sharp, but
No.
aluminum, it just got away from me yesterday. And the same with copper. I mean, I
It's hard,
admire
eh?
people that can work with copper and work with aluminum, and I think it's like anything else. The more you work with it, you kind of realize, well, it can do this and it can, you know, it's not gonna do that. But I'm
Yeah,
definitely pewter all the way.
absolutely. I think for me it was more born out of necessity because it is so hard to get pewter in New Zealand. It's almost impossible.
Yes. Yeah.
And I've got this roll of 20 meters of pewter. I think you've heard the story when I bought it
Yes. I was
in
kind of
Johannesburg. They
horrified
rolled
to
it
hear
out on
how they
concrete.
treated your pewter.
Oh my
Yeah.
word! And I only realized when we got here because I thought, no, I've got 20 meters, I'm sorted. And
Yeah.
now every time I do a project, it's so hard to camouflage those scratches. And
Mm.
the patina acts very weirdly on it. It's probably not it's obviously not the best quality pewter. So
Yeah.
for me, it was born out of necessity. What can I get in? I need to emboss. This is my thing. And
Yeah.
so that's when I started with aluminum and all the colored metals. But man, pewter is just in a league of its own, eh?
It is, and it's
Reminds me a
very,
lot.
you know, like, um, and that's something that Magdalena said as well. If you're going to do the work, do it with the
Exactly.
best, with
Yeah.
the best thing you can afford. And I mean,
True.
it is expensive,
Yeah.
the pewter, but I put in the same amount of time, whether it's aluminum or pewter, a
Exactly.
little bit more on aluminum because I'm trying to fix my errors.
Yeah.
But the pewter is a lot more forgiving, and you know, I just feel if I'm going to take that time to do it, now that I know a little bit more of how to do it,
Yes.
um, it's definitely going to
Do
be
it
pewter.
properly.
But
Yeah.
I think as advice to people starting out, do the aluminum, because if you can work on aluminum, pewter will be a breeze, right?
Exactly.
So start with
Exactly.
that, and then
Yeah.
you don't, it doesn't hurt so much if something goes wrong.
True. But I mean, if you work out the cost of pewter per project, it's actually minimal. It
It
sounds a
is.
lot if you think, gosh, you need to buy it in running meters. But I
Yeah,
mean, most of the
true.
projects we do are quite tiny. So, yeah, so if you
Exactly.
look at it that way,
Yeah,
it's not
for
that bad.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I initially started working very big, like I made very big mirror frames and
Oh,
things like
wow.
that. And then eventually, I was a lot younger and a lot hungrier 20 years ago.
Yes.
And and the projects became
Oh.
smaller and smaller, right?
Mm,
So yeah, you're right. It can go a lot further now if you're not
I think
doing
so.
enormous projects, for sure.
Yeah, I think for me, I've been having a heap of fun because I've challenged myself to say I'm only going to use my offcuts from 15 years worth of projects. I've kept
I
all of
saw
them,
that.
and
Yeah,
it's fun because you can do a project in a day, in a half an hour or an hour. You can have something done. And
exactly.
when you're a mom and there's housekeeping, we don't have all the luxuries we had in South Africa with housekeepers and all those things. So when you
Yes,
have to try and fit your crafts in between everything else,
true.
then yeah, I'm going for the
Absolutely.
smaller projects because I want to get it done now.
Absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
that's also one of the things that I so appreciate about the craft,
Mm,
is that even just with a little bit of time, you can achieve something and have that sense of gratification. And every now and again, we all need a little pat on the back. You know, I want to do something small today and look at it and think, yeah, that's great. You know,
yes,
we
absolutely.
need that little bit of, yeah, that's not too shabby, you know.
Mm,
So it's nice that the craft offers you, you know, let's say an hour, and you can end up with a nice little piece that you can put on a card for
exactly.
a friend. and it didn't take you days like the old masters and, you know, things like that. So I really enjoy that part of it, the instant gratification part of it.
Yes, I'm totally for instant gratification these days. So if you have any advice for beginners, people just starting out, what would you tell them to do?
You know, I would just say stick with it. People often get a little bit disconcerted when things don't go right. The trick is to try and do something small every day. And I mean, we're all busy and we all don't have time, but stick with it, because there's a moment when the penny drops and you're like, I got it. I can't tell you for how long I sat with my notes. Okay, now it's from the back on the soft, this. And then there's just this moment where it's like, now you don't have to think about it.
Yes.
It all comes together. It's not a complicated technique. So my advice for beginners is stick with it.
Just keep
going.
Don't
give up when you, you know, they say like a restaurant is always only as good as the last meal. And I always feel that when I've done a project and it didn't go quite well, you know, I don't feel well about it. I have to do another one that's better, so that I can feel that I've made some progress. And that is what, if you want to do metal art, just keep at it, you know, a little bit every day. And I often have people that have been taking classes with me for a long time, and I still think, gosh, guys, by now you should have it. But you know what? They only do metal art when they're at my house or at my studio. So the more you practice, the more things just becomes natural, and then you can start building on your skill set.
Absolutely. It's something that I try and teach my students as well. Is once you get it, the whole back to front thing, because I mean it takes a bit of getting your head around it, how to do it. But once you've got that, you've got it. And to just experiment. I've made the biggest mistakes, but they turned out wonderful. You just have to let the metal do what it wants to do and just play. It's sad for me to see a lot of my adults. I think I've mentioned this in the interview with Magdalena as well. A lot of us adults, we put ourselves under so much pressure that it has to be perfect. I've paid this amount for this class. It has to be, you know, perfect. And I don't know, it normally doesn't work that way. You have to practice to get to the perfection point.
That's a very valid thing. And that's something else that I also want to just kind of give people advice, is don't compare yourself to anybody else's work. We all have a different vision. We all have, like, everybody has good days and bad days. When I used to do stained glass, my instructor always said, never cut when you're tired. Never cut the glass when you're tired, right?
I couldn't agree more, and you see it in your art.
Exactly. So, you know, some of the things that you've learned in other mediums translates to this as well. You know, when you don't have a good project, don't beat up on yourself, and don't compare yourself to other people. Everybody's lives are different. The amount of time that people can devote to the craft is different. Our visions are different. Things that make us happy are different, right? So if the designs that you do, the outcome makes you happy, so be it. Just never do the comparison thing, right? That's actually some advice that I need to give myself as well, Ninette. I mean, we're so sensitive and whatnot, but just if you enjoy the project and you enjoyed the process, that's it. And I really admire people who put their work out there, because it's great for all of us to learn from what other people are doing.
Absolutely. One of the best quotes I've heard on comparison is the thief of joy.
Oh, totally.
And I want to make it in pewter and put it up in my studio, because a lot of times, I mean, scrolling through social media, you see these absolutely incredible designs, and I think,
I agree.
And I'm trying to teach people, I'm not on that level. But to just, you know, let go. I can still teach people the techniques are the same, but it's how you interpret those. And some people love all the intricate details, and lots of patterns and things.
Yeah.
And others don't. We like a more simple approach. And that's the beauty of this art. It's so personal.
Absolutely.
And I think what I enjoy most, especially with watching your work and some of the other artists, you can see it from a mile away. This is something Elitia's done. It's got your own personal flair. And I love seeing when people do their own thing, because I think that's where the magic happens. And it's not a copy of something else. It's not a copy of someone else's work or just the design you traced. You really make it your own. And I think that's what sets it apart.
You know, like you say, everybody has a style. Like it took a long time for me, but I think it's the choices of designs we make. So hearts make me happy, you know. And my metal art journey was very much influenced by my introduction to Mexican folk art. And you know, and I'm always so grateful to the Tesoro del Corazon group, which is Lori Micah, Lynn Leahy, Helen Schaefer Garcia. When I first met them, it opened up a whole world for me. The first time I went to Santa Fe, and I knew nothing about Mexican art or folk art, and you know where I come from, Ninette. You know, I come from Pretoria, for goodness sakes. You know, our influences were very African. We were making lions and elephants, and then to be introduced to the Mexican folk art, and it just changed the designs that I choose. And you, like you say, you kind of tend to go for things that make you happy, right?
Absolutely. I think I see you you enjoy travel as well, and I do too. And I think for me, what travel does is it expands your horizons, and not just in you seeing different places in the world, but it changes your perspective. And especially artistically, I've taken a little bit away from every country that we visited. When we went to Spain, I absolutely fell in love with the artisan craft work, the leather work, the intricate details. And it does, it impacts you. It changes your style and things. Yeah. It's beautiful.
And, you know, of course, there's the world of Pinterest. We can now, it's like fantasy football for girls, right? So I think it's just so wonderful to look at other people's beautiful creations and not, like you say, not want to make a copy of it, but it sparks an idea. And that's why it's good to look at different things, look at ceramics. And, you know, I find inspiration sometimes just in a way that people combine colors, you know. And I know, like we talked about the purest pewter art where, you know, you really shouldn't be putting color on it, but you know, life's changed, things have changed. We're not in the 50s and 60s anymore. And frankly, who made the rules, right?
Thank you. Yes.
You do you.
Exactly. So, yeah. I have a philosophy that rules are meant to be broken. You have to, in certain techniques, I mean, there's techniques in pewter that you have to know, otherwise you won't be able to break the rules. So know the rules, but then, you know, apply them, make them your own. I absolutely love the stamping on metal. I mean, that just opened up a whole new thing.
Good.
And I think that's, for me, why I've stuck to pewter so long, because I get very, very bored quite quickly. You mentioned fabric painting. I tried that, and mosaics and jewelry making and the whole toot.
Yeah.
And it's good, but now you can combine all those things. I see that you also use polymer clay in some of your creations. So that's a whole new thing that I haven't tried yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many amazing ways of combining the metal with, like you say, polymer clay. That same stencil that you use on the pewter, you can use on the clay, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, how can I use these things that I have with another medium, but still go full circle and come back to the metal again? Because you know, I have to justify metal. I don't have to justify anything, but you know what I'm saying. You know, I always feel that I need to come back to the metal and stay true things that I've learned over the years.
Yeah, I think it's the same for me. I enjoy crafts and I like trying all sorts of different things, but the thing I'm most passionate about is pewter and metal embossing. And same as you, to combine it with all these other things and find your way back to pewter.
Absolutely.
It's such a fantastic medium. So literally the possibilities are endless, eh?
Yes, definitely. Only limited by your imagination.
Yes, so true. So what were your biggest challenges when you just started?
I think my biggest challenges were not in South Africa. My biggest challenges when I started here in Canada was nobody else. I didn't have a community. I didn't have a community to exchange ideas, which I had in South Africa when I was with, taking classes from Helena. There were always people working on different things, and there was that inspiration.
Yeah.
So the biggest challenge for me, first of all, here when I started to teach, was finding supplies. I had a heck of a hard time. I don't know if you guys know Michael's stores, but Michael's is a very big arts and crafts store here. And initially they would carry the small rolls of the Amico art embossed pewter. But I really struggled to source things on a regular basis. And then, so that was hard, and not being able to get things from South Africa. I have to tell you, I've bribed family members and friends, and I'd say, now you take that one suitcase and you bring me a roll of pewter, and I will cook for you, and I will, I'll take you to Banff, and I'll take you to, you tell me where you want to go, but you bring me that roll of pewter. So that was the challenge, was not being able to source the pewter and so on. So for the longest time, I got my pewter from South Africa, and then the tools. Eventually, so I wanted to show your viewers the tools that I started off with. So it was a little set that had one handle and 4 interchangeable points. So my husband cut some dowel sticks and inserted the ends for me, because I was spending more time interchanging So this was the first little set, and still some of my favorite tools.
That's brilliant.
But out of desperation, right? Because it was hard to find the tools and the metal and so on. And then eventually I came across Magdalena Merc Art. So for the longest time, that Teflon tip tool was the best thing since sliced bread.
Amazing, I know.
So the Merc Art was definitely the first introduction to different tools for me. So that was kind of one of my biggest challenges. And then pewter art in Canada was so different. So apart from my core little South African supporters that would like whatever I would throw on the table, they will come and do as a class. I had to kind of introduce the people in the Canadian people to metal art, and I did church groups, and you do a lot of stuff you do a lot of stuff that you probably think, wow, it actually ended up costing me money, but that was kind of some of the challenges. And at that time, just the mere fact of being an immigrant, raising 3 kids, kind of learning the culture, trying to establish a little business, and having a day job and so on. So that was kind of,
that's challenging.
I probably went a little bit off track here, but that was kind of the challenges that I made at that time.
No, I so relate, because we've been in New Zealand for about 4.5 years now, and the same challenges. People in New Zealand, I think we were very spoiled in South Africa. There's a very healthy craft and arts community. Absolutely. And every lady I knew did something, whether it was painting or drawing or sewing or beading or whatever. And the craft shops. So we lived in Vanderbijl Park, but there's a lot of Indian shops, and they import the most wonderful fabrics and all sorts of craft supplies. So it was literally my one-stop shop. Walk into this warehouse, literally stories high, and just massive building, and you could shop to your heart's delight, whatever it was, whether it was glass paints or pewter supplies or beads or whatever. And imagine my dismay when we arrived in New Zealand and people paint. That's what they do. I've never painted. I can't draw a stick man to save my life. I'm not artistic in that sense. I'm crafty. Yeah. So I thought, ooh, what am I going to do? And so the first year and a half that we were here, we rented a cottage, a furnished cottage. So we didn't bring our container over until we found a bigger place to rent. Anyway, so that's when the pewter supplies came over. But being artistic, I think you can relate that you need something crafty to fill your tank and to process.
Absolutely.
And especially with immigration, it's quite a journey.
That's for sure.
If you do it with 3 kids in tow, I only have 1, so I can just imagine. But yeah, and then starting from scratch and building those communities, it takes time. It takes time and effort. But man, when we find those things that make us tick, it's brilliant.
It is. That's very true. Good. And you know, initially I looked to South Africa all the time for inspiration, like people like Marianne Lingenfelder, who started Mimic. I mean, I was always so inspired, and along with the pewter that came from South Africa, the books, right? And
the video,
like Sandy Griffiths, like there's a language that I think we grow up with a certain love for design and things like that are similar in South Africa. So I kind of crave that input for the longest time when I was already in Canada. And you know, whenever somebody would bring out a new book, or I would like I said, bribe and beg and find ways of you know, getting that inspiration here, and just always have such a love and appreciation for the craft industry in South Africa, for sure.
It's brilliant. And I really do hope that they appreciate it. Because once you lose that, you realize, man, we were so blessed to have it, eh?
Yeah.
I
think that, and I might be wrong, I think, I'm not speaking from experience, but Australia, for example, also has a kind of a more, like a different craft scene than, for example, South Africa. And I understand that for Australia and for New Zealand, it is harder getting supplies. Like it seems to be a bit of a big challenge, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
But you live in a beautiful place, so.
Oh man, it is gorgeous. Love New Zealand. I love the Kiwis. It's the most warm bunch of people I've ever met. They're brilliant.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they love you teaching them all these wonderful things as well, Ninette.
Well, we have fun. That's all I know. The classes are a lot of fun, and I've got a few converts who've just fell in love with the craft. And I think that's what happens, I remember the very first project I made was absolute disaster. The first time I applied patina, I didn't know what to expect. And so when my metal changed from this beautiful, shiny metal to this black thing, I was mortified. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I had so many ideas of what I wanted to make with pewter, and that didn't go away. So, peace.
I feel for you. I understand.
I suffered insomnia for the longest time. I've actually just started sleeping again within the last 6 months or so, but just having this amazing, all these creative thoughts and things that I need to get out of my system.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So cool. So let's talk a little bit. Do you have a favorite tools?
I do have I mean, apart from all the good tools, you know, like the Teflon tip tool and the ball and cup tool, I do have a little tool that's kind of my favorite, and it kind of happened by accident. So it's a little plastic tool, and it's got a kind of a straight edge at the back, and then a point at the front. But what I found with this little guy, I mean, it's probably similar to a Teflon tip tool, but I can get into nooks and crannies and flatten. And what it does, it doesn't scratch the metal. And the same with the point of this guy. So it's just plastic, so it does wear down. But then you take a little sanding paper and you sharpen the edges and so on. So I would say, like, if I had to travel and I could take one tool, I'll take this one.
That's awesome.
And you know what, Ninette? It also brings me back to the story about tools. If it makes a mark, it is a tool, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, we've gone camping. All the supplies went along, the pewter, the foam, the yada yada, but no tools, right? Because in the packing, the hot dogs and the sleeping bags and all of that, but with a pencil, I've made complete projects. The graphite in the pencil makes things glide along.
Actually, because it glides,
it does glide. And in Canada, I'm not sure. I'm sure in a lot of countries, art projects, art programs have very limited funds. So one of the things that, one of the workshops that I did here for Alberta Teachers Art Association is how to make a aluminum or pewter project with a pencil and a ballpoint pen.
Brilliant.
And we did it, right?
Brilliant.
Because it makes a mark and it is a tool. So if I was in the business of selling tools, this wouldn't go over very well. But I will tell you, just out of desperation, the best of tools. And one of the ladies that come to my open studio is from Kenya and learned pewter embossing or metal embossing in Kenya from her aunt. In Kenya, yeah, she's a Indian lady from Kenya.
Wow.
So, and her favorite tool was pretty much a little sharpened stick, like a dowel stick, and the flat edge on, very similar to this, just flat.
Yeah.
And
that's actually what I teach my students.
Only recently that she's actually given up that tool, right? So, so we all have our favorites, and like I say, it made the mark. And before we knew of all these other fabulous tools like ball tools, we were making domes with just a stylus. We didn't know about the marvelous cupping of the tool, cupping of
fabulous
the balls, right? So,
I love it. But it's true, and I think it might be part of the South African heritage, the whole boer maak 'n plan thing.
Yes,
that
absolutely.
we make a plan to make things work. So I teach my students literally with a skewer stick, with a little ones.
Wonderful.
I found some bigger ones. So this and a set of paper pencils that we buy for $2 from the dollar stores, and there we go. And you can do a complete project, because the tips, because they're bamboo, again, they glide. I don't like using the metal tip tools, because you have to lubricate and clean, and it always feels like it scratches. So I like that purple tool of yours.
It's a marvelous plastic tool. Somebody actually said that you could find other things that like plastic tubing that are solid and sanded down. Sounded like a little bit too much work for me. But like I said, that would be, if I had to choose one tool. I mean, I could take a pencil, but that would be the one that I would take.
Yeah. Very cool. So, what is your favorite thing to do? Is there anything that you like, or you find yourself going back to, like the alcohol inks on the metal, or the polymer clays? Or do you just like experimenting in general?
I do like experimenting, and I think what gives me a lot of joy is exactly that, combining different mediums and having it come together. Gosh, if I had to say what gives me a lot of, just having a good outcome.
Yeah.
Because, when you do develop projects, and I think you'll probably find that this yourself, Ninette, I think just there would be a full day devoted to working out a project, and then it doesn't work, right?
I've had those.
So you've had those, and I think it's sometimes just great to play, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, right? So but I think having the metal work be successful in the process, whether it's with combined with clay or combined with carving things out and stuff like that, if the metal part of it works out, the rest I can
you can juggle.
So, yeah, so I guess my answer would be just always making my metal work out.
Absolutely. And I think it's taken me a long time to really not perfect the techniques, because I think that's a work in progress, but to really understand them and to know how to get the best end result. And but still, I actually signed myself up for an artist mentoring program that's got nothing to do with metal embossing. But one of the principles it teaches is to make yourself lose of the outcome. It's more about the process and having a good time while you're doing it, and to sort of make yourself lose from the outcome. It'll be what it'll be, and to not be so hung up that it must be this perfect piece of artwork, to just let it be what it needs to be. So I'm working hard on that.
Good. It sounds like a good philosophy. You know, when I do think that I'm a recovering perfectionist. And it's hard because you're kind of hard on yourself, right? And I'm much better now. 5-10 years ago, I would have been a lot more stressed about things not being perfect. But the minute that you can let things go a little, like you're learning in your
a lot of beauty in it
project, you can get so much more joy from the process than from the outcome, for sure. It sounds like valuable information.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's about. For me, it's absolutely about the process. To just have that hour for yourself, to just do what you want to do. Man, that fills up my tank like you won't believe. I can, you know, it's just like a kickstart. So, so that's really lovely. So let's see. I think we've pretty much gone through all the questions. I see you like motorbiking with your husband. Yes. And I couldn't figure out from the question, is he the passenger or are you the passenger?
Oh no, I am very much the passenger, and I'm definitely will never be the driver. Yeah. Okay. So we've done a lot of wonderful trips together. You know, now that our kids are kind of grown up and out of the house, some they still keep coming back, but
that's cool.
It was something nice for us to do together, you know, and we've done some great trips and always been just so fortunate, had good, you know, good trips without any bad things happening and so on. Yeah, so it's a good experience. He's a good travel buddy.
That's so cool.
You know, he's always very patient when we're not motorbiking and we've traveled in Europe and I wanted to visit a museum. He'd say, you know what, you see that coffee shop? I'll meet you there 3 hours later. So he doesn't kind of enjoy the art part of things so much, but he's always very willing to make stuff for me. And so the least I can do is, you know, share his if it's his passion and
absolutely
be along for the ride, you know, in more ways than one.
Yeah, that's so cool. So are you a morning person or a night owl?
I am very much a morning person.
Okay.
I am better in the mornings. I get stuff done. And then at 8:30, I start looking at my watch and I'm like, can I go to bed? Can I go to bed? Especially in the winter in Canada when it starts kind of getting dark around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, you kind of, it seems like my bedtime gets earlier at night. But then I like getting up early in the morning and getting stuff done before I head out.
Very cool. It's actually in New Zealand at the moment, we just had our the end of daylight savings. And so pretty much by 5 o'clock, it's pitch black outside, it's dark.
Yeah.
So I find myself by 7 o'clock, I want to be in bed.
Exactly.
Where in summer, the sun only goes down around 9:30, almost 10 o'clock at night. So anyway, I catch up on a lot of sleep during the winter.
The winter, we almost need that hibernation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's
very
definitely
cool.
You guys are going into winter, and we're experiencing spring. So yeah,
beautiful.
It's a good time. Yeah.
It's a beautiful part of the world that you guys are in as well. I'd love to visit Canada. I think it's a gorgeous place.
You should visit once the world opens up again, right?
What a crazy thing.
Yeah, let's hope for better days, and
True.
I don't think it can go back to the way it was, but it'll things will
I think
get
definitely we had some friends over for dinner on Saturday evening, and we just had a chat about COVID, and he asked an interesting question, and he said, so now what? Because there were a lot of gifts, I think, that COVID gave us in the sense of really being mindful about how we go out of lockdown, and how us as humanity treat the environment and all these things, and each other, and just spending more time together. I think there was a lot of beauty in it, and I understand absolutely a lot of challenges, people losing jobs and loved ones. It's been a crazy time, but to not lose the lessons,
for sure. Yes. Very, very interesting times,
For sure. Definitely interesting. I think especially you working in a medical practice as well, I think you've seen, it must have been a challenging time.
Yes, so my other job is not kind of in the line of fire. I work for a pediatric endocrinologist. So a lot of our doctors did virtual consults, and but things are slowly opening up, and we see diabetic youth. So this is a good, they do need the support right now. Financially, for some families, diabetic supplies are quite the challenge. The clinic, the endocrinology clinic, has ways of putting them in touch with resources and things like that. So
that's really
but things are opening up slowly, and with all the precautions. Everybody wants to be safe, and I think just be mindful of what you do, and wash your hands, and it's just I don't think that we could ever be so lackadaisy again about things like that, right? Yeah,
it was definitely a gear change, that's for sure.
You betcha. Yeah. For sure. Anyway, but a lot of people have had more time to be creative, more time spent with family, apart from the other challenges that you mentioned, financial challenges, and the loss of life of family members, and but some things definitely will never be the same again, for sure.
I just hope the people who rediscovered their passions keep pursuing them.
You bet.
That they don't get
making the time for it.
That they'll really be mindful and make time to pursue those and to build up on those. Anyway, it was absolutely wonderful chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
We love learning from you, so don't stop experimenting. We're always on the sidelines watching what you're up to, and it's incredibly inspiring. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, I enjoy the process, and like I said, I'm very enthusiastic to see what other people are doing, because every time you learn something new as well, and like that is the thing. I think just continue to challenge yourself and to learn, and and just have fun in the process.
Absolutely. No, definitely. Well, lovely speaking to you, and I hope that we can meet up in real life one day, either you coming to New Zealand or we'll visit in Canada. So looking forward to that someday.
You're very welcome.
Awesome.
It was lovely speaking to you, Ninette, and hopefully we speak again maybe in a year, and then I'll have less grey.
I'll have more. I've grown out of mine. I was actually
hopefully I could get a hairdressing appointment.
I was quite offended the other day. It took me about 2 years to grow out my natural hair, because I ended up colouring every 2 weeks, and it's not a cheap thing in New Zealand to go and colour your hair. So I thought, oh, well, stuff it. I'm just going to go grey. And as soon as the hairdressers opened after lockdown, as I walked in, the lady was, do you just want to cut? Are you cutting for a colour? And I thought, lady, if you knew the hassle it was to grow this out, you wouldn't even ask.
Yeah, no, I'm counting the days until I can go. Yeah.
Enjoy. Lovely speaking to you.
I will.
Bye-bye.
It was lovely speaking to you, Ninette. Take care.
You too. Thanks, Elitia.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.